This video is sponsored by Fox 3 Managed Solutions. Use the coupon code above to get 10% off your subscription.
Welcome back. This is going to be a continuation of my DCS for Beginners video series. Today we're going to be going over multiplayer and how to join multiplayer servers. The first thing we're going to go over is communication, because if you're going to join multiplayer, it's really important that you're able to talk to everyone on the server. Now you can do this by doing the chat hotkey and just typing messages, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're flying. Now the most effective way to communicate obviously would be through voice chat. So to do that, there's two options. We're going to go over the first here, built into DCS. You go up here to settings and click on controls, and then select the aircraft that you want to fly in multiplayer. So I'm going to select the F-16, and the second drop down, I'm going to select search. And I'm going to type in VoIP, voice over IP. And here are my two voice over IP buttons. These are the ones that we want to assign to be able to talk within the game. Now this is the internal DCS VoIP. You're typically going to use these to communicate over the radio in DCS, and this is the voice chat for DCS for pretty much any aircraft. So to set that, we're just going to select a peripheral. So I've got my throttle here. I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to use this button here for UHF. Click OK, and then I'm going to double click on the VHF, and I'm going to use this button here for the VHF, button 82. All right. I can go between the two by pushing those buttons, and those are my voice over IP buttons for the F-16. If I'm flying a different jet, just select a different jet. We'll do the F-15 and search. VoIP, there it is, radio 1, 2, and 3. Set whatever buttons you want on your joystick or throttle for voice over IP. Now, to be honest, the majority of public servers and private servers currently use SRS, which is Simple Radio Standalone. And that's because the internal baked-in radio options inside DCS used to not really be that good, if at all. And so there was this mod called Simple Radio Standalone that was created specifically for that. And you can download it, install it. It's real simple. And once that's installed, you can use SRS. And SRS is basically a VoIP client server. You can have the server installed on the server side, and then the client everybody uses to communicate through the server to each other on the multiplayer server. Let's go over that real quick.
All right, once you got a browser up, let's go to google.com, and we're going to type in Simple Radio Standalone. There it is. Go there, and we'll download the latest release. We'll scroll down to the bottom here, and we're going to select the SRS Auto Updater.exe. Okay. Once that's downloaded, just click Open File. And we'll minimize this. And there it is. It's going to automatically download the latest version of SRS. I'm going to click No on reading the release notes. And I'm going to click No again because I don't want to make any changes. But if I did want to make changes, say I want to install it in a different location, you can do that. I'm just going to click No, and it's going to install everything. Installation completed successfully. We'll click OK, and we're done. That's it. Now, before you start DCS, you'll want to make sure you have your SRS client set up. So first thing, make sure you select the microphone you will be using while you're flying on a multiplayer server. So click this drop down and select that. So for me, it's going to be the Razer Kraken. So I'm going to select that. From there, you can click audio preview and make sure that it's reading audio. And then down here, you want to select the speakers that you want to hear others talking to you through the radio. So for this, same thing, my Razer Kraken, and then leave this to no mic output or pass through. Okay. Next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have your controls set. So click on controls. Once you're here, what you're going to want to do is select the radios. You don't need the radio modifier, just the radio. Radio 1, 2, and 3. If you need a modifier, you have that option, but we're just going to use radio 1 and 2. If you have a third or fourth radio, you can set those up here. Radio 3 modifier. Down here, you have radio 4, and so on. All right. Radio 1 is typically the UHF, and radio 2 is typically the VHF. So I'm going to go ahead and click Set for radio 1 and press the button that I want to use in order to use my UHF. So I'm going to click Set on radio 1 and Set on radio 2. And there we go. And now when I press button 24 on my throttle, it's going to transmit on radio 1. 26 is going to transmit on radio 2. Next, let's go to settings. Now I recommend leaving auto connect on. That way, when you connect to a multiplayer server that has an SRS server installed that has auto connect turned on, if yours is turned on, it'll automatically connect to that SRS server, and you don't have to actually look up that server's IP and port number and put all that into the general here to connect to it. Instead, it'll just connect automatically. So keep auto connect turned on. Let's scroll down, and I usually leave everything on the default setting, but what I'm looking for here is the radio balance. Here we go. Down here at the bottom, we have audio, radio 1 through 10. All right. I know I've set radio 1 and 2 already, and I want radio 1 to be more on my left ear. And the reason I'm doing that is if they're both equal, what happens is you just hear the same audio, volume and everything in both ears for either radio 1 or 2. So when you hear a transmission, well, which radio did you just hear that from? Was that a UHF or was it a VHF? Which button should I press to respond, right? If they called me, which radio did they transmit on? You can't really tell unless you're watching the little overlay, right? So instead, what I like to do is have it a little bit to the left on radio 1 and a little bit to the right on radio 2. I'm gonna go a little bit further here on the left. All right, so now when somebody transmits on the UHF radio, it's going to be hitting me on the left ear. And anyone who talks to me on the VHF radio is going to hit me more on the right ear. So right away, I know what button to push just by hearing it in my left or right ear. I know what radio they're talking to me through. All right, that's just a suggestion. That's just what helps me. So if you want to do that, you can do that. It's not something you have to do. We'll leave this running and let's start DCS.
All right, and once you're loaded in, you should now see this little window here. You can click the title bar and drag it around. And this is the simple radio standalone overlay. You can turn this off if you want by holding down left control, left shift, and hitting escape, and that'll change it to the different modes that it has. It has a transparent mode and an opaque mode. So just hold down left control, shift, and hit escape, escape, escape. There it goes. It goes away. Okay. We can also go into the settings and then over to special and then down to DCS SRS should be the last option. And you'll have these check boxes here. You can uncheck show DCS overlay by default. You can still turn it on and off with the left control shift escape, 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 but it just won't show it on launch. Auto launch SRS. This is if you join a multiplayer server that has an SRS server, it'll automatically connect you to that SRS server. With compact mode, you can turn it on, overlay help text, all that stuff. I'm going to uncheck the help text because I don't need that. And we'll click OK and restart later. All right, so now we have SRS installed. I'm going to hold down left control and shift and hit escape. There it is there. And you can see SRS is not connected. And that's just because I'm not on a multiplayer server right now that's running SRS. So it's just going to show disconnected at the moment. All right, so left control shift and escape until it goes away. Let's click on multiplayer. And let this start populating. This is going to start listing every single active DCS server in the world. Personally, I like to wait until this refresh button stops and goes to yellow, especially if I'm looking for a specific server. So the first thing you want to do is pick your call sign. Now this call sign is separate from your actual Eagle Dynamics DCS username. This is not your username. This is your call sign for whatever server you join. Now you can just put in your call sign like Maverick or something like that, but it's easier to find, especially if there's other people that have the same call sign as you, because a lot of people use something like that, something that everyone's used 100 times, right? So you want to try to pick something that's unique to you, but it can be anything you want. To do that, just click the pencil next to the call sign here, and then we're going to just highlight this. Let's call ourselves Husky41 and hit this little arrow right here. And now that's my call sign no matter what server I join right now. And then what you want to do is use these filters up here to find a server that you're looking for. So if you're looking for a private server specifically, you can filter out all the public servers by hitting yes here for password. So now these are all password protected servers. Only going to show you all the password protected ones. Only want to look at public servers, you can click no, or all the public servers with no password protection. And then map over here, we've got, you can pick whatever map you actually own, because there's no point in showing, you know, the Germany Cold War map because I don't own that, right? So why populate that in my list, right? So I can just pick a map that I actually use. Caucasus, if you have the free version of DCS and you haven't bought any maps, absolutely will have the Caucasus map. So you can pick that, show all the servers that are running on the Caucasus map. Or if you haven't purchased any maps, Marianas is also free. Look at that. Let's go back to Caucasus and then region. This is another good one so that you can find a good ping on a server. Those of you who are new to gaming or don't know, ping is just basically the latency between your computer and the server that you're connected to. And you want to have your ping be as low of a number as possible. The lower the number, the better experience you're going to have. The higher the number, the worse experience you're going to have. You're going to be firing missiles at jets that teleport from one end to the other of your screen because the ping latency is so high. The update time between where the jet is now and where the jet is in a second changes, and it's so slow in updating that you'll see the jet kind of move around like this. So I want to pick a server with a very low ping. I'm in North America, so I'm going to click North America here. And now I've got the North American servers, which typically if you pick the region that you live in, you're going to get a lower ping. Like if I try to pick, let's see here, Asia, and look at these pings, really, really high. And that's not because there's something wrong with their server. It's because I am geographically a long distance away. So my ping is going to be really slow, right? So pick the region that you live in, and you're typically going to get a better ping here. Now you can click these titles at the top to organize this list based on these columns. So if I click on ping, now I'll see the lowest pinging server all the way to the highest ping, right? And then I click it again, I can go from the highest to the lowest. Click on server name and you'll get it in alphabetical order. Same with mission name. I like to choose the player column and organize it by the largest number of online players. That gives me a list of the most popular servers. Now you'll notice as you scroll down through these that every server has at least one user online. And that one user is just the admin, and it's a spectator account. Right here, Fox3 Managed Solutions, they have their admin account sitting here running at all times on that server. Right? So there's always a one. That doesn't mean that there's any human beings flying on that server. That one is just an admin account. It's always logged in. So these servers here with the number 2 on them has just one actual human being like actually flying on it. So here Styx is flying here. Paul Powers is flying here, right? And up here, there's 41 active players on that server, right? Let's pick a server here. Let's pick the 4YA training server. See here, this is titled Training 24/7 Caucuses PvE. So you'll see PvE and PvP. PvP is player versus player. PvE is player versus environment. So you're going to be flying against AI. So this is the one we're going to select for now. And once you've selected your server, down on the bottom, here is the server description. It just kind of gives you an idea of what the server is about, what you're going to be doing on the server, what's available on the server, and the mission description. All right. To the right of that, you're going to see a list of everyone that is actively flying. So there's Pseudo11 is flying the A10C on the Blue Coalition. Lion is flying an F-15. So this is the list of all the players flying right now on this server. And since this is a player versus environment, you're not going to have any Red Coalition players because it's not player versus player. Right, so everybody's on the blue, and you're flying against AI. Then over here, you can see the spectators. The 4YA is the spectator. I'm pretty sure the admin right here, that's that one that everybody's got on every server. And then these guys are just spectating. Over on the far right are the game settings. These override whatever settings you currently have. So if you have your GFX set to off, you don't want to get blacked out. So when you're flying single player, you never black out. Well, on this server, when you join this server, it's set to realistic. So you're going to be blacking out and redding out. And then as you go down here, sometimes you'll see external views is set to no for a lot of servers because they don't want you cheating and using the external view to find targets on the ground with the camera. But this is a training server, so they have that turned on, which means you can use all the external views, things like that. Unlimited fuel and weapons are set to no. So if your game settings for your game in single player are set to yes on these, you join this server, they're going to be set to no. You're not going to have unlimited fuel. So just keep in mind, every server runs differently. You might even join a server where it is set to unlimited fuel, right? So it's good to check this. This is how this server is set up. When you're happy with it, come down here and click join. All right, and we're just going to wait for this to load. It's taking a while. All right, loaded. So here we can see the Blue Coalition and the Red Coalition. Since this is PvE, we don't have anybody over here. Let's join the Blue Coalition and click join. And now you'll see the spot selection window. Now in here, you'll see anything that's a lighter color is a slot that you could technically take. Now obviously I can't take that because somebody's in that slot, but there's no player here in this SU33. So I could select this, and now Husky41 is in that slot. Now I'm going to be spawning in an SU33 right here. I'm going to release that spot, and let's scroll out. And now if I try to click one of these darker slots, it's not going to let me take those spots because I don't have the CH47 installed. Or this one right here, the AV8B, I don't own the Harrier, so I can't take that slot, and it's a dark blue, right? So that's a no-go. But these down here I could take if there was no one in it, but there's people in these, so I can't take these slots either. I can scroll through this, or I can use the filter up here. So what I like to do is select the unit type, and I know I want to fly the F-16, so I'm going to scroll down and select F-16. And this is going to show all the active F-16 slots. Currently, they're all taken. So now what? I can't fly on this server? Now, all you have to do is go over here and click Dynamic Slots, and this will show all the airfields. Let's pick an airfield. So let's scroll out, and I want to take off, let's see here. It looks like a lot of people are flying up here. See Black Owls right here, Crunchies right here, right? So maybe I want to spawn at Sakumi. Let's select Sakumi, and now I can pick the F-16, the F-14, whatever aircraft that I own that I can fly. So I'm going to pick the F-16. Now, sometimes you'll pick an airfield and you'll click this drop down and your jet won't be listed. And that could just mean that that airfield doesn't have a slot for that jet. And if that's the case, just find another airfield. All right, so I'm going to pick the F-16. Let's make sure that my fuel is set the way I want it. If I'm doing touch and goes, I can bring the fuel down so that I'm not full of fuel, but I'm going to go all the way to 100%. Make sure my gun ammo is all the way to 100%. Ammo type, I'm fine with Safi rounds. Flare and chaff, we can change this however we want it. I'm going to keep it in the middle there, 60 and 60. My loadout, pick one of my loadouts here. And livery, I'm going to pick my 18th Fighter Squadron livery here. I change my tail number to 77, and we can spawn hot, which means the engine's already running and everything's aligned and ready to go. Or I can uncheck that and we will spawn cold, and I'll have to start the jet up manually. Let's spawn hot and we'll click OK. All right, now we're loaded in. We can look around and we're inside the cockpit. Let's push right shift P to get rid of the pilot model so we can see everything. Looking good. All right, so first thing you want to do is make sure that you read the briefing. So hit escape and click briefing. Now, it's important to read the briefing page because this is going to show you how this server works, how to use the menu, what comms to use for ATC or to talk to other players on the server. Typically, it's going to be SRS currently. Most servers right now use SRS. There is internal baked-in radio comms for DCS, but they weren't really that good for so long, and SRS has been around for so long, that's what everyone uses. But people are starting to use the new internal comms because they're getting really good. So if it's using internal comms... So that's SRS. If the server does use internal baked-in DCS comms, it'll probably say that here in the briefing. If they use SRS, it's probably just going to say SRS. Down here you can see how to find out what the mission objective is. So sometimes the server will actually have a mission objective, but this one it's just going to show you where to find out what to do on this server. The rules, objectives, more radio comms. So if you're going to be connecting to Texaco 11, which is a KC-135. This is the TACAN, and this is the radio frequency, so you can ask the tanker to allow you to connect, right? This is the TACAN and radio for the carriers. All that information is right here, all right? So it's really important that you read the briefing. Let's click fly. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you have your comms set, that you can talk to everyone on the server. So if you're using internal comms, I've got those buttons that I set here, and I know that the main comms for this server, if we go back to the briefing, you can see here, main comms 305. So we can see on the F-16 right here, the UHF is 305 currently, and my VHF is tuned to 124. I can use the internal comms by pressing my UHF VoIP button and transmit there, and you'll know if you're transmitting because you'll see UHF will highlight. Now, I doubt anyone is really using the internal comms on this server. It said SRS, but let's give it a shot anyway. So hit the UHF VoIP button.
305 Husky 41 radio check.
And see if anyone responds. Yeah, I doubt I get any response because no one's using the internal. Oh, never mind. Somebody heard me.
Copy, Lima Charlie, Husky 41.
All right, cool. Someone is using internal comms. Very cool. So that's a good way to check that. But I bet you the majority of the players on this server are using SRS. So left control and shift, and then hit escape. And that gives us that little overlay here. We can see we have 6 players on 305 and 5 players tuned to 124 on the VHF. All right, and the asterisk represents where I'm transmitting. So if I go to my VHF transmit button for SRS, it's going to show transmitting down here and UHF up here. All All right, so let's do, I already did a radio check on 305. Let's do a radio check on 124. So I'm going to press the VHF hotkey button for SRS, and we're going to ask 124 for radio check.
124 Husky 4-1, radio check. 5x5. 5x5, Husky 4-1.
Sweet, there we go. That's how that works. All right. Now we know based on the briefing here that the mission objectives are based off of the F10 waypoint list. All right, so let's hit the / button. We'll hit F11 to go to the parent menu. We're going to hit F10 for other. And then we want the waypoint list, so that's F4. And there we go. Now we can see Sochi is still hostile, and all these others aren't. So Sochi is where we want to go. That's probably going to be the closest one we want to attack.
Good work. We have captured Sochi. We can now spawn there.
Never mind, now Sochi's taken. So let's go back to the / F10 and F4, and now you can see Sochi's no longer hostile. Very cool. So now we have Maykop, Krasnodar, and a couple of the others for hostile bases. You want to see how to take over a base, we'll go back to the briefing. How to capture a base. All enemies have to be eliminated on the airfields to be sure to capture it. Once it's friendly, they'll be able to spawn at that location. Alright, so we just have to kill all the enemies on the airfield of any of those hostile bases. Alright, now every server is going to have different rules, different ways to play, different menu options. That's this / menu here. A lot of different ways of playing. Some of them are more dynamic, some of them are single mission, and once it's finished they have to reboot the server and you start all over. It's very common for servers to reboot because DCS cache can build and the server starts to slow down and the performance just starts to lack a lot. So in order to keep the performance as high as possible, servers will reboot after a certain period of time. What's really cool about the 4YA server here is right here on the F10, so I hit the / F10, and right here you can see F3 is check time left. So I'm going to hit F3. We have 8 hours left until they reboot the server. So that's really good to know. I got plenty of time. If it said something like 10 minutes, I'm not even going to bother taking off, right? I'm going to get out of the server and go find a different server, or just wait 10 minutes so I can start over and not have to worry about it. Now, if you haven't watched my Join the Community video, I go over how to find private groups so that you can fly with like-minded people, people that you get along with on password-protected servers. It's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend that you find a group that you mesh well with, that you can fly together with. And so if you haven't watched that video, take a look at that. I show you how to find those, and hopefully this was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Let's go.
Yeah, way up there. Flame out.